Black history of rock and roll, black history of rock and roll, black history of rock and roll. I thought I would do this video in tribute to uh, Freak, aka Fred Smith or Fred Freak Smith. Fred Freak Smith was definitely an amazing musician. He was known for his diverse ways of playing and also for just being a character, as Ian MacKaye from Minor Threat and Fugazi would say. He was the kind of dude that, for being in a predominantly all-white punk scene, being one of the... Actually, I would say DC had a lot of black folks in that scene. I don't know. Yeah, there might be a lot of white folks, but I remember just seeing a lot of pictures of different bands and stuff, and just how it seemed more diverse, like really, really diverse. I mean, like to me, that's what stood out. But yeah, he was still kind of an anomaly because of not just being a brother in that punk scene, but also just he, the way he dressed seemed like an over the top heavy metal kind of dude. The first very pic that I saw of him had like, it was a blurred picture of him and Thomas Squibb, the lead singer of the band Beefeater, which he played in. All you could see was him rocking out. Like, it was just obscured and kind of blurred, but just all these spikes around his arm, like, just it was a trippy picture. I think it's in that Band in DC book. Yeah, but you know Freak was definitely someone that was just known for his musician quality, as well as just kind of being a humorous type dude too. um yeah, I thought because of World Goth Day I would do a tribute to him, and even though it's a few days after, I thought it would be cool to do that anyways. um yeah, so Freak was a part of a few different bands that were very innovative in the DC hardcore scene. um and both were very different, for such a diverse player. I mean, why not? you know Being a musician myself, I could testify to that. And Freak was known for having um, so many different ways of playing, as far as just like how he played the guitar and even his influences. Um, you know, One of the first bands that I'll say, when I first heard of him was in this band called Beefeater. Beefeater was a post-hardcore punk band. And one of the innovators of that particular subgenre of hardcore punk type stuff. Um, they also were an innovation in the whole emo thing, the whole emotional hardcore thing, which they and groups like Rites of Spring and Embrace played the Revolution Summer. If you don't know about that, look up DC Hardcore and Revolution Summer. That's when a lot of those emotional hardcore bands kind of, um, I guess some people would say, make their ultimate debut. I wasn't there, but that's just what I've read. And Freak was a part of that. He was a part of that movement within hardcore. Beefeater was a trippy band because, yeah, when people think of post-hardcore, they would not really think of, like, how could I say this? The things that Beefeater did within their music. Post-hardcore, you got bands like Fugazi, that's probably, like the band that most people might think of at the beginning of that, even though there's a bunch of other bands too, like Jawbox and all that stuff. Um, the thing about them is like they had different things. I've never heard funk played in a post-hardcore band. Like, it would not be fair to compare these guys to like the Chili Peppers or even Faith No More with the stuff that they were doing, because it's one thing where you're just kind of not just playing just sort of this post-hardcore sound. Well, post-hardcore has a lot of different sounds, but these guys definitely played off of the things where they had songs with different time signatures, the slap bass, which Freak, the bass player of Beefeater credited Freak for teaching him how to slap on the bass like that. and Freak had his heavy metal influences, so there was a heavy metal jazz and funk influences and all these different things within Beefeater, and they pretty much like innovated that whole, like, they were one of the innovations of that post-hardcore genre, as well as the whole emotional hardcore stuff that you know, like, they were in those genres, but I would say not of those genres. They were a very diverse sounding band when it came to playing that style, of hardcore. They fused it with other things too, But yeah, Beefeater was definitely one of those bands, from DC that had those influences, especially in those two genres of, musics. The second band or other band that I would say that definitely was a DC band that was an innovation, of many bands like that, was Strange Boutique. Strange Boutique was a trip because they're probably one of the known legend goth, post-punk goth type bands from that area. The lead singer, Monica Richards, was in a band called Madhouse, which I think may have been the first of bands like that, kind of the post-punk going goth bands like that. Correct me if I'm wrong, you guys, but that's one I remember just like, reading about in the DC scene. Monica has always been kind of on that vibe, that sort of goth post-punk vibe, I know I sound silly saying that. She would definitely be contemporary with people like, Roz Williams or Eva O, of the whole gothic thing out here. Well, more death rock in LA, but definitely, she was definitely more on like the whole goth thing. But, our version of that, I wouldn't even say, I'm from LA, by the way, you guys. I would say it was kind of like an innovation on each side, not to talk about LA goth too much versus DC goth, but both of those simultaneously, she was kind of the equivalent to like what maybe a Roz Williams or Diana Cancer or Eva O is out there. Sorry, you guys. And Freak was in that band. He joined Strange Boutique. And, from what I understand, one of the guys turned him on to Susie and all that, and he thought it was cool. And, even within that band, you're seeing the different diverse styles that he has and just the things that he was doing and all the great things that, his diverse style of playing guitar, and it's kind of, the whole World Goth Day thing passed and made me think about doing this video because of his participation in this particular band, but also the other reason that I wanted to do a video on Freak is because basically he was killed. He was murdered in cold blood and left in a San Fernando Valley park for dead, and in, it was horrible, like basically how he was found. From what I understand, I think he had gone homeless or something like that, but he was stabbed to death in that park. And I'm raising the awareness because people are still trying to solve this mystery of who killed him. And shout out to Skeeter Thompson. Enoch Skeeter Thompson was in that hardcore group, The Scream, with the Stahl Brothers, and David Grohl at one point was in that band playing drums as well. Skeeter has been basically sounding the drum beat a lot on solving Freak's death, and it would be cool to see more awareness about what happened to him, and hopefully things could get solved. I'm going to put the Facebook group that's handling a lot of that in the description as well. And the hashtag too, Justice for Freak, that's the hashtag. I can say this, I've met Freak once. I met Freak I met Freak basically like I was basically like getting off the bus and he was getting on the bus. And of course, he stands out still, looking all kind of heavy metalish or whatever. Um, just kind of had a brief interaction with him, and then on social media I would talk to him sometimes. He's also friends of friends that I have too. Um, my friend Kurt from HTTH, Heavenly Trip to Hell. They used to play with his band Blacksmith, which was, I guess, sort of a rap heavy metal group. And he's played with a bunch of different people. I even read, I mean, please correct me if I'm wrong, that he did some stuff with Monica's other band, Faith and the Muse. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's another, goth type band. I think they had more of a folkier sound though. I've only heard very little of their stuff. But yes, you guys, this is sad, and I just thought I would just make a little tribute to Fred Freak Smith, and also give the awareness about him and what happened. Rest in peace, Fred Freak Smith, and may your memory be eternal. Black History of Rock and Roll signing out.